Hey, welcome back to another edition of David and Goliath. Thank you so much for all the feedback I got on my birthday, 65th birthday. That was a fun one. So here's another edition of David and Goliath. We know David was of a different spirit, and that's what defeated Goliath. And this biblical iconic story will give us insights on how we can defeat the Goliaths in our land right now that are bringing dismay and fear everywhere. But I want to focus on David's older brothers. The three older brothers were part of that army. Now, that army was very disciplined, as all armies are, or most armies are, that they had protocols, standard operating procedures, drills. In fact, they went out to the battle line, we know, in this short snippet. 80 times during 40 days they would line up. They were in uniform. They were in formation. I know about that world. I went to the Air Force Academy, okay? And so they knew about all of that. And yet they were filled with fear and dismay at the very same time. And what's so ironic, I guess, about the whole thing is they shouted. One of the times David came into the camp to give his brother some food and check things out, the time he ended up fighting Goliath, they were making their lines, they were making a formation, and they were shouting the war cry. Now, I believe some were in touch with their fear. I also believe there's a paradigm of fear that can overtake a whole group of people or a nation, like it has our nation. Paradigm is a ruling way of thinking. It's the paradigm that, say, took over Nazi Germany and the deception and evil went on there. There's paradigms of thought that if we don't recognize and resist, like David did in that camp, his older brothers didn't, but David did, then we have a chance of defeating Goliath. So again, picture this army marching, shouting the war cry, and then standing there doing nothing and being afraid of Goliath. It reminds me of something. I'll get to that momentarily. I'm going to tell you another story from high school. I don't know why. If you don't know why I'm laughing, listen to the last episode. But come senior year, the school board decided that we were not going to have extracurricular activities across the school system. There were 5 big high schools in Rockford, Illinois. And the school board decided that they were not going to have extra activities because there was a lack of funds, no money. And what happened is I ended up reaching out and connecting with the school board member that didn't see it that way. And we actually, it's a long story, we actually got together and tried to get that changed because there was a way to change it. Even though it was risky. There was a way to change it. So I'm working covertly with a school board member to see if we can't get all the extracurricular activities, all the seniors that were going to get scholarships in sports, all the band players, everything. Everything was scrapped. And so what could I do about it? Well, what I learned in that season was that every school board is heavily dependent upon state aid. And the state aid is dependent upon attendance at schools. And so we worked up a plan, the school board member and I, that we were going to boycott the schools. And he assured me if we did that, it would only take a few days for them to crumble and reestablish because the money was there. He claimed, I never saw it, but he claimed it was there. So what did I do? There's 5 high schools in town. I got seniors together. First was in my living room, about 25 seniors. I said, okay, let's get our class together and meet at the park. It's a long story. I'll make it short. We met at the park, explained the whole thing. About 100 seniors from 5 different high schools from all over the city. Okay, now granted, I'd never met these people, but there we were at the park. I'm standing on a picnic table telling them we can get our extracurricular activities back for the year. And so as I talked, I explained, and I'm sure it was a deep lack of my leadership that probably did that, but they didn't buy in. They said, well, yeah, but the bottom line is they were afraid if we did that and the schools were shut down that they wouldn't graduate. So was it a legitimate concern? Yeah. And was the prize of having your extracurricular activities and sports back for your final year of high school, was it worth it? To them, no. To me, it was. And so I'm not even looking at the right or wrong of the whole thing. If I was wrong or they were right, it doesn't matter to me anymore. But what does matter is what I saw. I saw a group fall under a spirit of fear and not being able to do something about it. COVID was a dress rehearsal of what's to come. I'll say that again. COVID was a dress rehearsal of what's to come. And we didn't do well in America or the church in America. Yeah, we go to church. Yeah, we shout the war cry. We sing our songs and anthems and, all of that. But we did not discern or face the Goliath in the land. Goliath won that round. Way for the most part. And now we know that with scientific proof and knowing what inside happened. And that was a dress rehearsal for something else that's coming down the pike. So, are you like David's brother? You dress up, you conform, you're part of something exciting, you line up for battle, you sit in your row in church, you beat out the anthems, all of that. But there's no talk about how do we take down the Goliath. There are Goliaths in the land. And I so respect and so appreciative of the few that are trying to do something about it and speak out against it. The wokeism, the border crisis that the child trafficking goes along with that, the insanity of transgenderism, all of that. I could go on, couldn't I? And so if your group, if your leaders, if your gang is just going through the motions like David's older brother did, you line up for battle, you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're dressed like everybody else is dressed, but you're not talking about it, if it's not coming from your church leaders or the pulpit, and there's no mention of what can we do about this wokeism. It's not a politics anymore. It's good versus evil. What can we do about the border crisis and the child trafficking? That's evil. What can we do about this transgenderism? Evil. And there's many, many more. If there's no speaking of that, then you're under a spirit and a cloud like the Israeli army was at that time. It takes a Davidic spirit to defeat a Goliath. David dressed different, acted different, thought different, and did different. We need Davids in the land. Will you be one of them, or will you at least support them that rise up? It's time to speak the truth in love to your coworkers, to your neighbors, to your clan, your tribe, your church leaders, your pastor. Why aren't we participating or developing in plans to take down these Goliaths? Or will you remain like David's army, or even worse, like the church in Germany, and just become complicit to the devil's schemes? I hope we can do better in the dress rehearsal, and there is a plan. David's in the land. And in the next episode, I'll talk about what that one act did. David defeating Goliath and cutting off his head, how that rippled effect into a powerful movement. Thanks for your time.